Amanda, you're very welcome back. For anyone looking at us on YouTube, you did actually adhere to the prosperous uniform policy today. You've come in, we both look the same. This is coinciding thinking, isn't it? And that's what it is. This is how this happened. It's subconscious, that's the better word. You've got loads of questions.
Spending too much time together.
That's it. You've got loads of questions today. Well, you've got 3.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
First one, go for it.
So the first one, I'm actually going to read out. It's the person just wasn't comfortable sending a voice note. So this person's father passed away from cancer, and they are currently supporting their mum with rent plus €500 a month. However, the guilt of not doing enough is always there, which comes at a cost of not indulging themselves, or when they do, they feel guilty. Are there any tips that you can suggest to overcome that?
Okay. That's a tough one, because your mother is now vulnerable.
Yeah.
There's obviously a financial need there from your mother, from that person's mother, and they're carrying the burden. I'd love to know if this person has siblings. There's no suggestion to the siblings there.
There's no suggestion. I would be of the opinion that they're probably doing this alone.
Okay.
And doing it alone for a reason.
Yeah, my fear on that though is that they're doing it alone because nobody else, they do have siblings and nobody else is talking about it, right? So this is all going to, the solution to this lies in communication, okay? First of all, the communication directly with the mother. Yeah. And satisfying themselves, Mum, are you actually okay financially now? Is everything all right? I'm paying your rent, I'm giving you £500 a month, is it enough? And if it isn't enough, that person has a decision to make. Can they afford to give them more?
Yeah.
And the answer to that might be, of course, I'm going without stuff at the moment out of guilt, not out of necessity.
Yeah.
So I could go to 700 and I wouldn't go out for dinner once a month, right? That's not the solution either, because ultimately this thing could get wrapped up completely with resentment. And it's been done for good intention. It's been done for the right reasons. It's been done because your dad has died and you're looking after your mother, and your mother looked after you for long enough, and it's all the right reasons. But if this could go on for a very, very long time. We know nothing about the mother's age. It could go on for a very long time. So it needs to be at a level that you're comfortable with, because you could build resentment towards, I have my life on hold because this person needs to be looked after financially. If there's any other siblings here, whether they can afford to be involved or not, whether they can afford to be involved financially or not, they need to be involved emotionally.
Yeah.
They absolutely have to. You have to share that burden across the entire family. There's no siblings. It's about sitting down with the mother and saying, okay, this is what I'm doing. This is how it's affecting me. I want to do as much as I can, but I need to be able to live my life. And you're entitled to live your life as well when you're supporting someone else. And I think that needs to be said to that person directly. And if you don't have a sibling to talk to about it, get a friend and sit down with them and say, look, this is what's happening. What do you think? That person's entitled to their own life. It's great that they're in a position that they can help their mother. I'm not going to say it's nothing to do with them. I'm not going to say it's not their responsibility, but they're not obliged to do it. Like the mother, you could just say, if you couldn't afford to do it, the mother would have to find another way, is the way I would put it. Luckily enough, this person seems to be in the position where they can afford to do it.
And they're doing a lot. You know.
We don't know how much the rent is. We do know the £500.
Yeah.
So they're doing a lot. And I just think the only way this guilt is going to go away is communication with siblings, with the mother, and with a pal.
Yeah.
Do you think that?
I think that, it covers, it's a hard one to even know what to suggest to a person in that situation and what the right thing is to do. But I suppose you did make a very good point to that person. They are entitled to live their own life. Absolutely,
100%. I've sometimes got caught into situations like that, or brought in, not caught in, that's the wrong word, brought into the situations like this, where it can be easier if you have a financial planner or an accountant or a solicitor, where it's not necessarily a conversation just you and your mum sitting down.
Absolutely, and that's a good point as well.
There's a professional sitting there with you. It doesn't have to be a financial planner, just a professional that the mother is not kind of going, why is this person here with us? Oh, they're helping me with my money, or they helped us with Dad's will, or whatever else. And having someone, if you find it hard to approach the subject directly, but you're much better having these conversations now. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Tough position, but hopefully that helps.
Yeah.
Have we got another one?
We'll move on to question 2, which we have a voice note for.
Hi guys. So I have a personal savings, and I save for Christmas, and then I save with my partner. We're saving to buy a house, but I find that when it comes to my personal savings, I don't know when to use it appropriately, and then when I do use it, I feel guilty for actually using it. I find like even going to use it to buy, you know, the car insurance for the year, I feel guilty for actually using it. I'm kind of like, oh, is this what it's actually supposed to be used for? Should it be something more important? And then I find then that I owe myself then. I feel like I'm adding more and more to my savings because, you know, to make up for using it. If you could give any advice on that, that would be great. Thank you.
I think this is a very common, we've got a few questions in similar to this with the guilt of eating into savings. So it's a very, very common thing that people are experiencing.
Yeah, and that's like, if you think of not necessarily the opposite, but one of the things that I will go on a lot about is I'm not a fan of having a rainy day fund.
Yeah.
Right? Because if you have a rainy day fund, you can convince yourself every day it's raining and I have to dip into my fund, right? Yeah. Whereas if you can create an emotional attachment to your savings by naming it, okay? And this person seems to be doing it. They've Christmas, they've got this, they've that. And what's confused me about their question is if they've saved money for Christmas and it's called Christmas and they use it for Christmas, where's the guilt? Okay, why are they feeling it's the wrong thing to do? That was the purpose. And what I would suggest is going wrong here is, if you think about it, we'd often have a couple would come in to me and we'd be building out a financial plan. You might have one person in the couple who is like, oh, let's just spend all our money, we could be dead tomorrow. Yeah. And the other person is like, oh, no, we need to worry about putting bread and milk on the table at 75 years of age. Let's not live today at all, right? And they're the two extremes, but oftentimes you can get them both in a couple, and maybe that's why the couple works financially, right? Because you've got the two extremes. What a good financial plan does is it looks after the long-term financial future. Yeah. So that you can enjoy today guilt-free. Okay? Now, that's an extreme version of, I do think that person there could really benefit from knowing, you know what, I'm putting enough into my pension, I'm going to be grand later on. I've put enough into my medium-term savings, I'm going to be grand later on. And here's the stuff that's going to come up in the next 12 months. I'm going to name it the way I do it, so I create an emotional attachment to it. And when I spend it, that's what it was for. Yeah. Like, I'm using the savings. This is me being financially structured and having an operational system that helps me to manage my money the best way I can possibly manage it. And what I think possibly is missing there is the longer term thinking. Because if they're worried, oh, I'm dipping into the Christmas fund for Christmas, right? Yeah. That shouldn't be a problem if everything else is sorted out. It's only a problem because they're going, oh, maybe I didn't need it for Christmas and I should have used it for something else. Does that make sense, Amanda? Yeah,
I suppose I kind of got it from this that they were taking it out of all the one pot for some reason.
Okay, but I didn't pick that up.
Maybe
because she did say at one stage she was naming it, but okay,
did she?
Okay, but now let's assume that she isn't. She has it all in the one pot, right? And she's saving it all in the one pot. She needs to separate it out. Then that's a really simple answer. That's Christmas, holidays in July, back to school, weekend away with my partner, and she did say deposit for a house, right? So that she needs to separate it out and put names on attachment and attach the names to it. Yeah. So we're not 100% sure, and I'm sure we could listen back. There's no need. The message is the same. If it's all in one pot, your problem is simple. Separate it out, put the names on it. If it's already separated out, it's probably a longer term issue that needs to be addressed so that you can enjoy today guilt free. Yeah. And then about having the separate buffer then as well. I think buffer is the financial protection. Yeah. And people say, what's the difference between a buffer and a rainy day fund? There's a massive difference. Buffer is you reach for the buffer when you would have reached for the credit card. Yeah. Yeah. Okay, so it's when life throws something at you, good or bad, and you would have reached for the credit card, you reach for the buffer. And that's massively different than a rainy day fund. Yeah. Like coming in the evening and saying, I've had a bad day, let's go for a pint, right? You might stick that on the credit card. Yeah. You might stick that on the credit card. You're not going to stick it on the buffer. Yeah. No, tough. That's our buffer. That's not a...
Which is it's such a good point on the rainy day, because it's still so many people use that terminology about having a rainy day fund, but... Yeah, no, it's easier to eat into.
If you really need a pint, go for a pint, right? Dip it to the buffer.
Sometimes you do. You really need that pint, or you need that glass of wine.
Life is about experiences, not things. Have we got one more?
Yes, we do. And now sometimes we do cut back our questions that we get. They can have a lot of detail in them, but this particular question I've decided not to cut back. So it's long, but there's a lot of detail in it, and I think it's important that we...
Oh, this sounds like it's going to be good, because if you didn't edit it down, it's going to be a good one. So it's long, And it's detailed.
It's detailed, yeah.
And there's a glint in your eyes. There's a little bit of entertainment in it, Amanda, is there?
There might be.
There might be. Okay, right. Let's just go on a journey together. Let's listen to this long one.
Yeah.
Hi, Owen. I just saw the post about psychological attitude to money on Facebook, and that's funny because I was only saying to myself and to others that I think I'm obsessed at this. Well, I'm reading your books too much, but I'm kind of obsessed with saving for the rainy day, and I'm kind of like, I'm afraid to spend it in, like, I think I'm I'm not tight, but I'm cautious. Like I always run out of money. But I try not to dip into my savings. I know this is all what you say I should do, but I think I'm actually saving too much. And like, I'm always topping up my pension because Owen says to, and I'm like, all about the rainy day, rainy day, rainy day. And sometimes I think, I need to live for the moment a bit more. Not like, it's like when I'm on a diet, it's all or nothing. I'd love to be a bit more middle way, like, because we've decided to get some blinds for the house, grand. And we have money in like not easily access money. And my husband's like, sure, use that. And I was like, no, I can't touch that money. So I think I'm putting too much into the untouchable. And then I kind of have little pockets, I have little vaults, I've kind of little, but I've cleared them out now just before Christmas. But I know I'll build them up again. But I'm kind of afraid to spend money. Like, okay, I think this is a great example of me listening to you too much. I saw your discount for Prosperous, and I had it booked and I had it in, but I didn't have the cash coming up to Christmas at the time. I could have done it, and I was about to put it on the credit card, and I went, well, Owen will have a stroke if I tell him that I booked the appointment for the discount on my credit card. I mean, if that's not a definition of false economy. So you know what? I'll pocket it and I'll save up for you, Owen. But I think, sorry, I'm very long-winded. Put me on the 2.5 speed or 2 speed. My dad was always cautious. Again, not tight, but cautious. And he wanted to make sure that everything was okay for the rainy day. And to be fair, like, he passed away a long time ago, but like, my mother is so comfortable now. And that's all he wanted. And he had college funds for us. Like, I'm 46 now, and, because he was self-employed, well, he was taxed annually. So, like, they had to be clever with their money. And I kind of think it's been passed on. I can't cope with all people spending so much money now, and like Christmas, I going, where are they getting all this money and why are they spending all this money? And I can spend money, but I'm afraid to. I like my nice things. I'm probably not making any sense. Anyway, this is Anya in Cork.
That is deadly, isn't it?
Great.
Hi, Anya. I feel like I know you. I know you well. That's what it feels like.
Yeah.
I'm not sure where the question is, if I'm honest, right? And actually, my gut feel on that is, why isn't she here as a guest? She would have been deadly as a guest.
Yeah.
And maybe that's Anya, if you want to come on as a guest and you listen to this, we'll talk about anything, because it seems like you can talk about everything. It's deadly.
Yeah.
Do we have can you unpack it, giving me a question out? Like, sorry, what I was getting out of that was, she seems to have a lot of things going on. She seems to be really trying to do everything right and overdo things to the point where she's
finding it hard to let go of the money when things come up then.
But yet she said she wiped everything out coming up to Christmas.
Yeah, I know.
And she didn't have enough to cover the cost of the consultation.
But I think she still has the rainy day separate money to that, because what she was talking about her pockets and her vaults, I suppose, a separate thing. And then I think the rainy day, she's calling it a rainy day. We're going to change her terminology and call it a buffer. But that's where I think she's struggling to dip into that money.
Okay, so it seems she has an emotional attachment to the money.
Yeah.
It seems that she is she said, I'm not tight, I'm very conscious, but I always run out of money.
Yeah.
She said that all in the same sentence.
Yeah, she did say that as well, yeah.
And you're kind of going, okay, what it strikes me here is she is trying too hard with too much stuff.
Doing too much.
Yeah, she needs to just concentrate on one thing at a time. And she needs to go, okay, right, I have my next, like, it's a great time of year at this time of year. It doesn't matter what time of year you're listening to this, right? But particularly coming into a new year or even start of a new month, what have I got in the next 12 months? What do I have to cover? Writing them down, get out. And there's nothing better, particularly for that person where she seems absolutely brilliant. And I love the voice note, right? And I see now why you put it in full. I love the voice note, but she seems to be a bit, I'm really sorry on you, but I can't think of another word off the cuff, a bit scatty in terms of where her brain is going, in terms of, I'm looking at this, and that's why we can't pull a question out of it. I think she could really benefit from a pen and paper. And not an Excel spreadsheet, a pen and paper, and write down, okay, what have I got coming out in the next 12 months? What big stuff would I like to do? What are the stuff that I have to do? What are the stuff that I'd like to do? And getting it put down on pen and paper so she can see clearly what her near-term financial future looks like. Yeah. And I think that's the first step for her. And I don't think until she's done that, we can unpack any of the rest of it. Yeah. Because what she sounds to me is she's struggling with a bit of a control thing. She's trying to control absolutely everything, so she's controlling nothing, and therefore she feels out of control. And the only way she's going to get the control back is with a pen and paper. Write down everything that you're going to spend money on in the next 12 months. And if 12 months is even too big of a task, think about the next month only. Okay. Get everything that you're going to spend between now and your next payday. Look at how much money you have available to you. Give every euro you have a job, and then work through that. And if you can get it over the next 12 months, she seems to have a bit of structure on it, so I think she could extend it out for 12 months. Yeah. But if you're doing this for the very first time, you're listening, you should just do it for the next month. How much money have I got now in my bank account? Yeah. When is my next payday? And what jobs have I got to give all of that money? What's wants and what's needs? Back to basics in school. What do I want and what do I need? And make sure you cover all your needs before you start going after your wants between now and the next payday. And I think a bit of structure for her would make a massive difference. I think a pen and paper is her friend. And I also think she's going to become a friend of the show. I think we might come back to her and have her on. Anya, if you're listening to this, you can come back on and talk about anything. Yeah. I think like whatever you want to talk about, provided somewhat money related. But I understand. And you know what? It's very, very typical of what's going on in people's minds out there in terms of how they think about their money. But I think you need to, Anya, if you're listening to me, you need to just concentrate it back just to one thing.
And would you have given out to her for booking the prosperous appointment on the credit card?
Absolutely, yeah, I would have. Yeah, no, totally.
So you made the right decision.
No,
there,
she made the right decision. No, you don't. Like even she mentioned that
just to give
discount.
her some.
And we don't run discounts that often, and there was a specific reason we ran that discount. But like, what was it? A 20% discount, was it? Yeah. 20% discount. Was it 20 or 15? It
was 20%. The last one.
So it was a 20% discount. Her credit card's probably charging her 22%. It doesn't make. And sorry. No, is the answer. You don't book in to do anything like something with Prosperous or any other company that's a want in the short term. It's a need in the long term, but it's a want in the short term. She needs to do it the way she's doing it and build up the savings and it not affecting the rest of her structure because she paid for it.
Yeah.
Is that it for this week?
That's all our questions for
How's
this
it going? Because we've been asking listeners all the time to send voice notes to the WhatsApp. Yeah. Have they been good?
Yeah, so we're getting a lot of questions.
Great.
I would like to say I do listen to every single question that comes in. I don't get a chance to reply to everybody, and apologies for anyone that we don't actually get to reply to. But what we do try and do is pick out the questions most similar that will, I suppose, that are coming up the most often. And you have banked some questions in terms of you put some to some side that we might come back to in the future. And put some to the side as well with guests as well. Some people have suggested coming on for different topics. Okay. You're on a list, and it's just when something comes up that's relevant, we can reach out to you then.
Yeah. So what you want here, I'll get you to call out the WhatsApp number in a minute. But if you've got a question for the podcast that you want to ask, just like Anya did there, if you've got a suggestion for a guest that we might bring on, or if you wanted to come on as a guest, just send us a quick note. Give us your question, give us your suggestion, or tell us what you'd talk about if you came on the podcast with us. Yeah. What's the number they need to send a WhatsApp to?
So the number is 087 291 0507. That's 087 291 0507.
Amanda, thank you very much as usual.
Thank you.